CTN Radio. Hear the difference.
Now the news. I'm Shane Begum. Foreign Minister Wang Yi's reaffirmed China's commitment to tackling climate change. Wang made the remarks at a high-level meeting on climate change at the UN headquarters in New York. He called for global efforts to promote green transformation, saying the international community should neither give up transition efforts due to difficulties posed by the pandemic and energy crisis, nor rush for success while losing sight of reality. Wang also called on developed countries to fulfill their commitments and provide financial and technical support to developing countries. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi and his Russian counterpart, Sergei Lavrov, have agreed to strengthen coordination between the two countries. The two officials met on the sidelines of the 77th session of the UN General Assembly. Lavrov said Russia supports the global development initiative proposed by the Chinese president at the UN. Wang Yi said the two sides should deepen strategic cooperation, actively participate in global governance, and push for a fair and more reasonable international order. On the Ukraine conflict, Wang stressed that China calls for peace, and he hopes Moscow and Kyiv do not give up on peace talks. Lavrov says Russia is still willing to solve the problems through talks and negotiations. A magnitude 6.9 earthquake struck western Mexico early on Thursday, a few days after a major temblor killed 2 people and battered hundreds of buildings in the country. Shaken residents of Mexico City scrambled out of their homes as the earthquake alarm sounded and buildings shuddered. 1 person died from the quake in the capital. The epicenter was recorded in the state of Michoacan, not far from Monday's quake. The Chinese president extended greetings to farmers and people working in agriculture and rural areas ahead of the Chinese Farmers' Harvest Festival. President Xi Jinping says the country overcame climate impacts and the difficulties of the COVID-19 pandemic to achieve bumper harvests in grain and rice so far this year. He's stressing governments at all levels should stick to the major agricultural policies to guarantee food security, accelerate the modernization of agriculture in rural areas, and enable constant improvement in farmers' lives. The U.S. Federal Reserve has raised its key interest rate by 0.75 of a point for a third straight time. Officials also signaled that more large rate hikes will come. Owen Fairclough reports.
U.S. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell warned last month that taming inflation would be painful, and is proving so. That benchmark interest rate is now at its highest since before the 2008 global financial crash. And it means that at more than 6%, the average U.S. mortgage rate is now at its highest since that period. Many economists say the latest data suggests price rises have permeated all sectors of the economy. One study suggests the Fed will need to push unemployment far higher than its projected 4.1% in order to bring inflation down to its target rate of around 2%.
Authorities say China will release more pork from government reserves to the market this week to maintain supply and price stability. The country's top economic regulator says the price of hogs has been running at a relatively high level recently. This will be the third batch of pork released from government reserves. The National Development and Reform Commission also says it'll follow market changes, continue to release pork reserves, and increase the release if necessary. North Korea has denied exporting weapons or ammunition to Russia. It accuses the U.S. of tarnishing North Korea's image by circulating the rumor of arms deals between Pyongyang and Moscow. A state news agency quoting an official also says the country doesn't have plans to export weapons to Russia in the future. The number of weekly COVID-19 deaths globally has dropped to its lowest level since the World Health Organization declared the pandemic in March 2020. But there are still people who are suffering from post-infection conditions known as long COVID. Edith Tianshan reports from Los Angeles.
Beyond fatigue and headaches, long COVID can cause a myriad of complications with the heart, stomach, lungs, or mental health. As many as 23 million people in the U.S. may have lingering symptoms, according to some estimates. The University of Washington's Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluation says nearly 150 million people worldwide are estimated to have developed long COVID during the first 2 years of the pandemic. Here in the U.S., long COVID advocacy group Survivor Corps found that 44% of its members with long COVID had considered suicide.
NASA's new moon rocket sprouted more fuel leaks in a test ahead of a possible launch attempt next week, but engineers say they've managed to get them down to acceptable levels. There's no immediate decision on whether NASA would try to lift off next Tuesday. The hydrogen leaks have bedeviled the launch team for months. And that's the news. I'm Shane Begum.